Ever wake up one morning and realize the entire world changed while you were sleeping? That's exactly what's happening right now with global finance, except nobody's talking about it. While everyone's distracted by political theater and market volatility, the actual infrastructure that moves money around the planet is being completely rebuilt from the ground up. Stablecoin supply just exploded by $45 billion in Q3 2025 alone. That's an 18% quarterly surge that absolutely shattered every previous record in crypto history. We're not talking about retail FOMO here. This is systematic institutional capital deployment happening at scale. Daily stablecoin trading volumes are routinely crushing through $20 billion, and total on chain transfers hit $15.6 trillion in just 3 months. Let me repeat that number: $15.6 trillion. That's nearly the entire GDP of China moving through blockchain rails in 1 quarter. Here's the kicker that nobody sees coming: three blockchain networks you've probably dismissed, as boring banker coins are quietly becoming the invisible highways of global finance: XRP, Stellar's XLM, and Hedera's HBAR. And before you click away thinking this is just another crypto hype video, let me show you the receipts with hard data that'll blow your mind. The old system is literally collapsing. Swift was built in the 1970 seconds, back when disco was cool and computers filled entire basements. Cross-border payments today still take 3 to 5 business days to settle, bounce through 4 to 6 intermediaries who each take their cut, and charge fees exceeding 3 to 5% of the transaction value. According to institutional research from the Bank for International Settlements, these legacy inefficiencies drain over $120 billion annually from the global economy in locked capital and processing delays. Think about this. You're a small business owner in the Philippines receiving payment from a client in Germany. Your money bounces through Deutsche Bank, then Citibank in New York, then Santander, before finally reaching your account 5 days later minus 5% in fees. Meanwhile, the XRP ledger can settle that exact same transaction in 3 to 5 seconds for less than 1 penny. That's not a marginal improvement. That's like comparing dial-up internet to fiber optic. The dollar's dominance is cracking under pressure. The IMF's September 2025 report shows the US dollar share of allocated global reserves dropped to 59%, down from 62% just 2 years ago. BRICS nations increased gold reserves by 18% between 2022 and 2025 and established bilateral currency swap lines worth over $50 billion specifically to bypass dollar clear payments. The foundation is crumbling in real time, and institutional treasury management solutions are adapting fast. XRP, the institutional settlement layer. Let's get into the actual numbers. RippleNet has secured partnerships with over 300 financial institutions, spanning 45 countries, including Santander, SBI Holdings, American Express, and PNC Bank. Their on-demand liquidity service processed $2.3 billion in cross-border transfers in Q1 2025 alone, with a staggering 93% of transactions settling within 10 seconds. The UAE-India corridor alone handled over $900 million in Q2 2025. That's nearly $1 billion moving through a single blockchain corridor in 3 months, settling faster than you can send a WhatsApp message. Banks implementing RippleNet report 40 to 60% cost reductions and complete elimination of pre-funded Nostro accounts that previously tied up hundreds of millions in idle capital. We're talking about capital efficiency improvements that directly hit the bottom line. Then came August 2025's regulatory earthquake. The Secant Ripple case concluded with a $125 million settlement, officially establishing that XRP sold on public exchanges is not a security. This wasn't just a legal win, it was the institutional green light the entire industry was waiting for. Within months, CME Group launched cash-settled XRP futures that processed $542 million in their first month, with open interest climbing past $1 billion by August. Major asset managers including Grayscale, Bitwise, 2-1 Shares, and Canary Capital all filed for spot XRP ETFs, with approval odds now estimated at over 90%. Now, pay close attention, because what I'm about to reveal is absolutely massive. All three networks, XRP, XLM, and HBAR, are ISO 20022 compliant. If that sounds technical, Let me translate why this matters. ISO 20022 is the global messaging standard that SWIFT and the Federal Reserve's FedNow system are migrating to in 2025. It's the universal language for financial data, enabling richer data sets, improved automation, and seamless interoperability. The Federal Reserve, European Central Bank's target system, and clearinghouses across Canada and Singapore all went live with ISO 20022 inches 2025. Market analysts project that blockchain settlement systems natively supporting ISO 20022 will capture enormous institutional flows as major correspondent banks complete their infrastructure upgrades throughout 2025, 2026. Stellar. Financial inclusion at humanitarian scale. Stellar takes a completely different approach, targeting the underbanked and humanitarian sectors with surgical precision. The MoneyGram partnership processed $1.5 billion in digital remittances in Q1 2025 alone, a 45% increase quarter over quarter, and now represents 70% of MoneyGram's transaction volume through digital channels. This created the world's largest cash on off-ramp network, with hundreds of thousands of locations where you can convert between USDC stablecoins and physical cash. But wait until you hear the humanitarian story that nobody's covering. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees deployed Stellar Aid Assist to disperse nearly $5 million to 2,500 households in Ukraine, Argentina, and Bolivia. Recipients receive USDC directly to digital wallets, then convert to local cash at MoneyGram locations without needing traditional bank accounts. This isn't pilot stage experimentation anymore. This is operational infrastructure delivering real-world humanitarian aid with embedded compliance and full transparency. In January 2025, the United Nations Development Program formalized a strategic partnership with Stellar Development Foundation, specifically to develop scalable blockchain solutions for UN Sustainable Development Goals. Federal Reserve data shows blockchain-enabled remittances have cut average costs from 6.1% down to just 2 to 3% of transaction value. Stellar-based remittances often cost below 1%, offering economically transformative access for the nearly 1 billion unbanked adults worldwide. Stellar's network maintained 5 million active accounts and processed 300 million transactions in the first half of 2025, averaging 2 to 3 seconds to finality per transaction. The late 2024 rollout of Soroban, Stellar's smart contract platform, bridged the gap between simple token transfers and complex financial primitives. Q1 2025 saw Soroban attract 200 new projects, reaching over 500 active decentralized applications by mid-year. Total value locked on Stellar hit $2 billion with a 30% month-over-month increase in April 2025. Hedera. Enterprise governance at scale. Here's where it gets controversial but fascinating. Hedera's HBAR operates under a 31-member governing council that includes Google, IBM, Boeing, Standard Bank, Dell, and LG, each with equal voting rights and staggered 3-year terms. Critics scream about centralization, but here's the twist. Enterprises actually demand this model. Institutional-grade liquidity requires accountability, stability, and legal predictability, things that purely permissionless networks struggle to provide. Hedera processes over 10,000 transactions per second, with finality in 3 to 5 seconds, and fixed fees around 1/10,000th of a dollar. The network handled 8 billion transactions in 2024, with over 200 production applications live by Q3 2025. Daily transaction volumes averaged 708,000, 500 inches Q1 2025, a 25.8% quarter-over-quarter increase, driven by crypto service transactions doubling to 483,100 daily. Industry insiders report Hedera's carbon-negative operations consume less than 0.001 kilowatt-hours per transaction, addressing ESG requirements that increasingly govern institutional capital deployment decisions. Third-party audits show that a single Hedera transaction consumes roughly as much energy as streaming a few seconds of video, helping financial institutions meet environmental mandates. Banks like Shinhan and SCB TechX successfully piloted stablecoin remittances on Hedera in 2023, demonstrating regulatory-grade audit trails for cross-border foreign exchange settlement. The central bank quiet build-out. This changes everything. The BIS Innovation Hub's Project mBridge reached minimum viable product stage in 2024, connecting digital currencies of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, and the UAE with transaction finality under 10 seconds and 50% cost savings versus legacy correspondent banking. While mBridge uses custom technology, the design principles, real-time gross settlement, embedded compliance, cross-ledger interoperability directly mirror the architectures that XRP, XLM, and HBAR have been building for years. Ripple conducted CBDC pilots with the Royal Monetary Authority of Bhutan, Republic of Palau, Montenegro, and Colombia between 2021 and 2024. Former Ripple executives confirmed this work was critically important for learning what central banks wanted and directly influenced XRP ledger development toward enterprise stablecoins. Stellar underpins the Bahamas Sand Dollar, one of the world's first official CBDCs, which processed over $150 million in retail transactions across 5,000 merchants in Q1 2025 with 98% uptime. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Dcash program on XRP Ledger exceeded 120,000 daily active wallets, with transaction volume surpassing $25 million by mid-2025. The World Bank issued multiple blockchain bonds, totaling over 300 million euros since 2018, with case studies reporting issuance time reductions from weeks to days and potential cost savings up to 20% on underwriting fees. In September 2025, the bank launched new blockchain-based tools for monitoring project funds with transparent, tamper-proof tracking. Treasury Department sources confirm global corporations are achieving cash conversion cycle improvements of up to 40% and working capital reductions exceeding $200 million annually using stablecoin rails. Tokenization, the trillion-dollar asset migration. What in the world is happening with real-world assets? Tokenized assets grew over 60% to $13.5 billion by late 2024, with projections ranging between $1.9 trillion in base case scenarios and $4 trillion by 2030. Let that sink in. We're talking about a potential $4 trillion market being built on blockchain rails right now. Franklin Templeton's tokenized money market fund operates on Stellar. BlackRock's tokenized short duration fund captured 30% of the nascent tokenized money market fund market within 6 months of launching in March 2025. According to EY's 2025 Institutional Digital Assets Survey, 68% of institutional investors plan to allocate to tokenized assets by 2026. This isn't speculation. This is institutional commitment backed by balance sheets. Over $25 billion in institutional capital has flowed into DeFi since 2023, with over 60% of total value locked denominated in regulated stablecoins like USDC and USDT. Leading lending markets such as Aave, Compound, and MakerDAO migrated significant portions of their collateral base to regulated stablecoins, reducing exposure to volatile crypto-native assets and appealing to institutional depositors. A 2025 joint report by MIT's Digital Currency Initiative and the World Bank estimated that implementing DLT-based trade finance and payment automation across G20 economies could boost global GDP by $500 billion annually through reduced friction, faster settlement, and expanded market access. The study projected compliant, interoperable networks could underwrite $1 trillion of tokenized debt and equity issuance by 2028. While less than 1% understand this, the 99% are distracted by price charts, political scandals, and short-term speculation. Meanwhile, the 1% are tracking institutional adoption metrics, reading IMF policy papers, analyzing BIS, working group disclosures, and monitoring central bank pilot results. Over 200 financial institutions now actively participate in validator networks across XRP Ledger, Stellar, and Hedera. More than 15 central banks have publicly announced pilot engagements, with at least 8 progressing to live or quasi-production environments. In quarterly earnings calls, major correspondent banks report allocating up to 10% of payments, research, and development budgets to blockchain integration. Venture capital tells the same story. Blockchain-focused funds doubled allocations to these protocols year over year, deploying over $1.2 billion into ecosystem projects, building payment gateways, compliance layers, and cross-chain bridges. This isn't speculation anymore. This is institutional capital allocation driven by macroeconomic implications and systematic risk mitigation strategies. 114 countries representing 98% of global GDP are already exploring CBDCs. The question isn't whether blockchain will underpin future finance. The question is which networks become the settlement layers. XRP, XLM, and HBAR have spent years building exactly what institutions require: Basel III compliance standards, ISO 20022 implementation, prudential regulations, and central bank digital currency integration capabilities. The invisible transformation. Here's the kicker that most people completely miss. This transformation won't be announced with fanfare or front page headlines. It'll just suddenly be everywhere. Your bank transfer, your digital wallet, government benefits, cross-border e-commerce payments. All of it could run on XRP, XLM, or HBAR infrastructure in the background without you even realizing the rails changed. Just like people didn't realize the internet had replaced analog systems until it was already ubiquitous, the same thing is happening with money right now. The pipes are being upgraded while everyone's distracted. Real-world pilots validate this trajectory. In Indonesia, state banks conducted a stellar-based bond issuance pilot that reduced settlement times from T+2 to near instant and cut issuance costs by 40%. Singapore's Monetary Authority project UBAN Phase 5 tested multilateral CBDC settlements that eliminated credit exposures and reduced collateral needs by up to 50%. XRP, XLM, and HBAR aren't competitors. They are complementary infrastructure layers solving different problems. XRP provides high-value institutional liquidity settlement with real-time gross settlement efficiency. Stellar enables inclusive remittances and programmable retail payments through financial services modernization. Hedera offers enterprise tokenization with governed consensus for supply chain provenance, digital identity, and carbon credit marketplaces. Together, they form interoperable rails connecting fiat currencies, stablecoins, digital assets, and CBDCs into a seamless, programmable financial ecosystem. Your move. So here's what I need from you. Smash that subscribe button and hit notifications, because this infrastructure build-out is accelerating faster than any mainstream outlet can track. The institutional capital deployment happening right now will reshape how value moves globally for the next 50 years. Drop a comment. Which network do you think drives the biggest transformation? XRP for institutional liquidity corridors and nostril account optimization? XLM for financial inclusion and humanitarian aid distribution? Or HBAR for enterprise governance and carbon negative operations? I genuinely want to know your take. Share this video with anyone still watching price charts instead of tracking the actual rails being built. Help wake them up to what less than 1% currently understand. This is your chance to see where global finance is heading before CNN and Bloomberg finally catch up. And trust me, by then the rails will already be operational and processing trillions daily. Remember, 99% of people will never fully grasp this transformation until it's embedded in every transaction they make. But you don't have to be part of that 99%. You're here, you're paying attention, and that puts you miles ahead of the curve. XRP, XLM, and HBAR aren't just tokens you trade for quick gains. They're the foundational architecture for cross-border settlement optimization, treasury management solutions, and correspondent banking alternatives that will move trillions of dollars daily within the next decade. The invisible revolution is happening now. Don't just watch history unfold. Understand it, position yourself strategically, and be ready when this infrastructure becomes the standard everyone relies on without even knowing it exists. The rails are being built today. The only question is whether you'll recognize them before the rest of the world wakes up.